welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today, well, I'm standing in Miami, specifically down here for the holidays for Thanksgiving, but I did bring some light reading with me along the way, and I figured I'd go ahead and do a very quick buyer's guide for those of you that are excited for the Black Friday sale coming soon. Oh, and also, in case you're curious, this is probably the most precarious position this camera has ever been in. We are perched delicately on top of a wooden post. We'll see. There's some wind coming in from the side, but hopefully you can hear me perfectly fine, and I'll be able to walk you through what you should be paying attention to, and specifically what you should not be spending your money on. Because I'm like you all. I've ran the gauntlet of Black Fridays. I remembered before I had the ability to know what was going to be listed in the store or not, which we'll talk about in just a moment. I spent one night up for close to 28 hours waiting for the sale to go live. There's no telling when, how, or what will be available when the Black Friday sales post, but don't worry, after you've watched this, you'll know exactly what you shouldn't get. This video is all going to be about the anti-hype nature of Kingdom Death. Trust me, I've spent thousands of dollars chasing that brand new release, hunting for a base game when they weren't available, and of course, buying all of the expansions without having a second idea about what they are or why I should or shouldn't spend my money on them. We're going to get into all of that. Finally, for those of you that are into Kingdom Death and have enjoyed the campaign coverage here on the channel, we just filmed 2 more episodes, one of which will be available tomorrow over on the Patreon. It's going to be a White Lion level 1, and then the next one against the Antelope is going to be over here on the YouTube channel. So if you're curious about watching the campaign, swing over to the Patreon, or do so in a month or 3 months, or whenever you'd like to catch up on all the stories. With that being said, let's talk Kingdom Death. First and foremost, do you already own a copy? If not, well, this is going to be the perfect opportunity for you to pick up a copy. 1.6 actually has began shipping, which surprised the heck out of me. I saw today on Facebook someone had a big post with 1.6 across the top. And also the upgrade and expansion packs for those of you that have an older 1.5. If you're waiting for Black Friday to pick up a copy of 1.6, I think this is the best bet to get it, right? It should be around $350. You'll save on shipping. It'll be the best price anywhere for Kingdom Death. And the fact that it is actually starting to deliver should give you a little bit of hope into, well, actually getting your core game. You don't need to chase, you don't need to go third party, you don't need to hunt it down on the market. Be a little bit patient. But the video should end here now for you if that's the case. If you don't already have Kingdom Death, if you're just now picking up 1.6, wait for another year before you get any of the expansions. Don't hunt down the resins, don't get the white boxes, don't get anything else, because you're not going to play with it. It's going to be a couple years before you ever even dig into it, and while you might enjoy building some of the models or looking at the beautiful boxes stacked up in the corner, the hundreds and thousands of dollars you'll invest if you try to go all in just is not worth investing at this time. Make sure you love the game, play through the campaign, and then, maybe then, pick up some additional copies once you're ready to start experimenting or exploring the expansions. And the expansions have been readily available. They continue being reprinted, they continue getting sold out, and you'll be able to find them. It's just going to be a matter of time before you do. Let's swing into the larger conversation. Those of you that already have 1.5 and get the upgrade pack, which is a natural thing to do, I think it's worthwhile. It's a good value for your money. Those of you that already have 1.5 or 1.6 and are looking at your pledge manager to decide if you want to add anything in now, Kingdom Death historically has consistently missed deadlines and opened up the pledge manager, giving you opportunities to continue reinvesting in something that you're not sure when it's going to arrive. So, here's what I'd say. The Gambler's Chest is high value. You'll be able to sell it at an astronomical price when it arrives, and we still have no idea when it's actually going to get here. I would encourage you who have an open pledge manager, who think you want to play a little bit more or want to resell when everything comes in, and specifically have already played and enjoyed the base game, to invest now in the Gambler's Chest. I think it makes sense. There's a lot of people waiting for it. It's exciting. It is on the horizon, and it'll open up a lot for what's happening here on the campaign. For those of you that don't have Kingdom Death already, stop. You don't need it. They're going to be extras. They're going to be selling them. It has too much content. You'll be able to get in. It might cost you a little bit more down the road, but for now, you just don't need it. Because here's the reality. We still don't know when it's coming. We still don't know where the scope creep is going to be, and you could save a couple $100 here or there. Sure, the price has increased dramatically over the course of the past few years, but it's came with delays. If I paid $99 and got $400 worth of content and the Gambler's Chest came a summer ago, or a winter ago, or a summer ago when it was supposed to, then maybe we'd be having a different conversation. But you don't need to buy based off the hype right now, immediately. Get the base game in, get the expansions that already exist, and see if you like it. Those of you that already know that you like it or are planning on reselling anyway, Gambler's Chest is probably a decent bargain. That being said, there's scooters over there, and the wind is very dry. That being said, let's talk about Wave 4. I would encourage no one at the moment to invest in Wave 4. The price keeps going higher and higher, and it might be another 4 or 5 years before we see Wave 4 content arrive. We just don't know. There hasn't been enough effective communication to let us, the backers, know whether or not we should buy now, or if they're just still trying to get access to funds. I think they have enough funds. I don't think I need to reinvest my money. I'm already full pledge on Wave 4, I'll admit that, honestly, and I know some of you that are watching will be, but for those of you that haven't gone all in Blackest Bundle, the $5,000 full in pledge, I don't think now is the time to do it. We still don't have enough information or enough facts. You may end up paying more later, but if you do, you can justify that cost because your money isn't tied up for the course of the next 3 or 4 years, and on top of that, you'll know if you love the game. Why invest in extra expansions, resources, elements of the game that you don't even know if you like? And if you already love it, why invest now in something that you may not have in 4 or 5 years? Until communication improves, I think you should hold off. Let's go through the things that we have now, the stuff that you'll actually be looking for, and some of the things they might post that you should have on your mind or consider. We've been through the core game and the upgrade pack. Let's talk about the Gambler's Chest and expansion set. If they have an opportunity to back the Gambler's Chest, if you're not already in the Pledge Manager, it's a give and take. If they have an opportunity to get a full box of the expansion set for something like $950, I don't think it's worth it. With the expansions, my advice is going to be to pick and choose the expansions you want to mix up and mess up your game. Now, if you want to buy them to resell on eBay, that is something that people find favorable to do, but for all of those that have chased down copies on eBay, they always come back in stock. You just might not get it immediately when you want it. So don't chase the hype, be a little bit patient. If they have white boxes available, which they oftentimes do, and they usually have them at reduced prices, something like $12.50 instead of the $25 that's normal, white boxes should only really be purchased if you already love the game and you want to mix in bonus content, gear items, grids, stuff like that, or you love building miniatures and painting miniatures, and there's some miniature that stands out to you as something that's worthwhile. Now, the white boxes that add some interesting elements, I would say there's a white speaker white box that'll mix up the story element a touch, but for the most part, you're not ever really going to use the expansion gear that comes with those pieces of content. And if you're deep enough in Kingdom Death that you know you're going to use them, then you're not even going to need to watch this video because you already have the white boxes. I don't think they're worth it unless you're going to be building, crafting, and painting, and then using those miniatures. They're really a hobbyist thing with some extra bonus content, and also, white boxes are always available. If they have pinups, really that comes down to your own personal preference. Are you going to use those models? Are you going to set them up in a display or spend the time painting them? As far as a collector goes, they're readily available. They're made out of hard plastic now. You don't need to chase them down. And as far as your personal in-game experience goes, they really add little to nothing to the gameplay experience of Kingdom Death. Brown boxes. Brown boxes are going to be your resin miniatures. They'll come in 2 styles, collector's editions and non-collector's editions. Collector's editions are just going to be high-quality resins. They're worth investing in. Sometimes, if you're a mini painter, resin gets more fined and detailed, but you'll never actually use them in gameplay content because brown boxes are fragile. So you'll never want to pull them off the shelf. You'll opt for plastic over them. As far as brown box non-collector models go, really, you'll know whether or not you need them. If you're questioning or watching this video deciding whether or not you need them, you don't. As far as the collector's models go, they're great for collectors, but are you really ready to sink about $50,000 into chasing down every piece of Kingdom Death? If not, leave it to the resale market and just don't worry your poor little head. Swing down. We have expansions. Let's talk through the expansions, and let's start with the overarching notes. Kingdom Death has a variety of ways to play. You have People of the Lantern, which is going to be the core base game expansion, but you're going to have 3 other campaigns currently available that come with models. People of the Stars, People of the Bloom, and People of the Sun. People of the Stars is going to tie to the Dragon King, People of the Bloom is going to tie to the Flower Knight, and People of the Sun are going to tie to the Sunstalker. If you're interested in changing the way you experience and play Kingdom Death, and even changing the narrative pinpoints that you go through, those 3 expansions will be the most valuable to you for iterating upon a base game that you already like. People of the Sun, by the way, with the Sunstalker expansion, is arguably, based off the community, the best of the bunch. As far as expansions go, I'm going to list them in hierarchy, what I think is worth what, and specifically whether or not they're recommended. Dragon King. Dragon King is a quarry and a nemesis. It is recommended to play his campaign alone. It is a late game creature that comes in. It is an incredibly hard fight. If you haven't made it to end game of any of your other campaigns, like myself, you don't need the Dragon King. You're not going to ever encounter him. As far as rarity, probably 8 out of 10. A lot of people do buy him up. It's an incredible miniature and model. It's just not necessary for you if you're here for the gameplay. Dung Beetle Knight. Dung Beetle Knight is going to be a quarry. It's going to add a great addition to the core game. It is a fun, impactful fight that really changes up the way you play. It also comes in around mid-game, so you might actually be able to encounter it more likely than not. Mixes in around where the Phoenix would normally mix in. Sorry for my dry throat. The quarry, the Dung Beetle Knight is a little bit more popular. About 7 out of 10. A lot of people love the model. A lot of people love the way it plays. It's one of the favorites by painters, so worth exploring potentially. Flower Knight. Flower Knight is also going to add quite a lot, not only adding to that kind of woodland aesthetic, but the Flower Knight is going to come with its own People of the Bloom campaign, where you're going to be trading resources monster resources, in order to get flowers or flower petals that you can then use to craft gear. By the way, Dragon King, you're hunting down the People of the Stars and doing your very best to become one of them. It's an interesting narrative, but it is a hard one to actually complete. Flower Knight's also going to come with a thing called the Vespertine Bow, which is a really fun ranged weapon that you might want to play with. It's a good expansion, well worth adding in. Again, it's going to be another mid-game quarry, and as far as I'm concerned, it's about a 7 out of 10 in rarity, mostly due to the popularity that it has. It and the Dung Beetle Knight are very attractive models. Gorm. Gorm is not going to be quite as rare, but it is important. The Gorm is going to cycle the White Lion, or be a beginning quarry if you'd like. The Gorm changes the game a lot. For those of you that are getting tired of playing the same game over and over, I think it's worth getting the Gorm or a few of these others. The Gorm is going to be a beginning quarry with a lot of great resources, and actually adds in new settlement locations, armor, fighting arts, innovations, a ton of things for you to really mix up the experience of the game when you're tired of fighting the White Lion over and over again. It's about a 5 out of 10 in terms of rarity. It's a little bit of an ugly model, so there aren't miniature people that are excited about it, but that being said, for gameplay people, it is one of the highest. If you have a chance to grab it at a good deal, go ahead and get it. You probably won't regret it. Green Armor Knight. Do not get the Green Armor Knight, period. It is way too hard to make. To get it, you need Gorm, Spidicules, Dung Beetle, Flower Knight, Lion Knight, and Manhunter, and it's incredibly hard to build. You have to do a dedicated campaign just to utilize the armor or ad-lib your own way in. So, as far as I'm concerned, don't even take a second look. As far as the Lion God, the Lion God is going to be a quarry. It's going to be late game. It is hard to encounter, and popularity-wise, it's about a 4 out of 10. Would not recommend you chase down the Lion God. I just don't think you're going to integrate it into your gameplay anytime soon. Lion Knight is going to be a nemesis. Introduce some thematic fights, which can be really interesting to play. Has a unique fight principle, but again, I don't see you mixing it into your campaign, so don't pick it up yet. You'll know if you need it down the road. Lonely Tree is going to be low priority and low overall rating, about a 2 out of 10. The Lonely Tree is something that you encounter and then you can continue hunting and fighting. It acts as a sentient creature without moving, throws bombs at you and lobs. It's an interesting fight and adds in some elements and resources that you can utilize during your game. It could have a big impact on your game if you utilize it to its maximum potential, but honestly, it's a little bit of a more boring quarry, and you probably will be forced to encounter it. You'll either have to seek it out, or you just may never run into it during your game. It's one of those that you can add in, and if it shows up, great. If not, we don't really miss it. So, as far as you're concerned, you don't need it. You don't need to buy it. Manhunter. Sorry, again. Manhunter is going to be about a 4 out of 10 in terms of rarity. It's a little bit mixed. The audience is back and forth on it. It is going to be a nemesis, which means it's going to be subbing out people like the Butcher or supplementing people like the Butcher. It's going to add some unique gear, fighting arts, and it might be an easier fight, which is one of the reasons you might want to consider picking up the Manhunter. Could be an easier pathway to late game than some of your other alternatives. SlenderMan. SlenderMan is going to be a rarity of 4 out of 10. Really thematic fight, actually a lot of fun, but the SlenderMan is going to infect your village and slowly start stripping memories and skills away from them, which can be frustrating while you play. I think the Nemesis is a really, really good creature to add in, especially early on, but right now, if you don't even have Gorm, you don't need to worry about picking it up. The Nemesis is thematic, but it can also be a frustrating addition. Spidicules. Spidicules is going to be a really interesting quarry. It actually substitutes the antelope if you're tired of fighting that furry beast, but here's the thing, it is one of the most gangly and uninviting models in this whole collection. Hard to store, hard to play with. It really requires solutions from the community to make it usable. But Spidicules is also a lot of fun, adds some unique flavor and story elements, and the way it introduces itself to your campaign is delightful. If you're picking up Gorm to substitute the White Lion, you might look at Spidicules as a way to substitute the antelope. But you'll know if you need to get there, if you're tired of hunting down that screaming donkey. Sunstalker. This might be one of the most important creatures for you to get, specifically because it launches the People of the Sun campaign. Probably the best value for your dollar when it comes to accessible expansions. Would highly recommend picking up the Sunstalker, which is weird because this list isn't about recommending things. It adds arguably the best campaign in the game, where you're doing your very best to live next to a pool and raise baby Sunstalkers, along with mixing in some unique mechanics like paying attention to shadows, light, and dark. I think this one's worthwhile, and it will sell quickly, hopefully, especially after people see this. And finally, let's talk about the Giga Lion vignette. A little small module. The Giga Lion really should be mixed in for a group of people that have a lot of people that love Kingdom Death, have played through a campaign, but maybe don't have the time to dedicate to a full campaign right now. It adds a one-shot little supplement that then can be mixed into the core down the road. I'd love to see more of these, and there were likely going to be more of these in the campaigns of Death in the future. I think it is worthwhile only for a group that already knows they love Kingdom Death and already knows they're taking a lot out of it. It's a good fight, it's a hard fight, it's a good experience, but you're not returning it to it time and time again, and I also don't find it to be a great way to introduce people to Kingdom Death for the very first time ever. It takes a lot of work to get them up and running and ready to play. So, with that being said, let's go back over what we've talked about and learned. For people who are new to Kingdom Death, don't worry about anything other than picking up the base game. That's going to be plenty for you for the next year. All the expansions, all the white boxes are going to remain in stock and available. And if you love the game, you can spend the extra $50 or $100 in a year or two from now to pick up the extra things that you're missing. Chasing them down right now due to the nature of hype and the way that this business model is ran probably isn't the most valuable thing for you. That being said, if you have the game and you've played into it a little bit, you know you're keeping it, you just want to mix things up a little bit, Sunstalker and then Gorm. Beyond that, I would say maybe experiment with SlenderMan and bridge over towards the Spidicules. Despite how horrible the model is, it does add a little bit of value or a lot of value when you substitute out the Screaming Antelope. Dragon King could be a good option for those of you that are already well advanced and ready for late game, but let's be honest, if you're there, you already own all of this. Don't chase down white boxes, even if they're at an incredible deal. Don't worry about backing Wave 4, because as far as communication goes, we have no idea when it's going to arrive, and don't worry at all about brown boxes or collector's editions unless you're able to grab a limited run of 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 250, and that's only because in a year or so, it's probably going to be worth 3 or 4 times what you paid for it. And ignore all that if you're a miniature painter. I'm primarily talking to our board game fanatics at the moment. Because let's be honest, Kingdom Death is a board game, and this is a board game channel. Those of you that love miniatures already sort of know where to shop, what to buy, what adds and holds value. And finally, if you're thinking about the Gambler's Chest, I think it's a good investment. I do. I wish it was already here. It gets harder and harder to say every time we get a delay or we don't get any feedback from Poots and the wider community. So, as far as I'm concerned, don't give in to the hype, don't chase down the models, and don't spend all of your money on an investment that is not yet arriving. Finally, the last thing before we go, I will have a link to a Patreon down below, both myself and Mephisto, who creates the white speaker. If you're like me and you want to know when the store refreshes, it's a great way to get a phone call letting you know that something new has been added to the shop. It's the way that I've remained not having to stay up through midnight every single day of the year. I instead have my phone ringer loud, and I just get ready to listen for it. After 1-2 years of staying up all night, we had to find a solution. So it's a great option for those of you that are fanatics like me and want to make sure you snag something specific and you're not just grabbing everything all together. Hopefully this has helped. This is your Kingdom Death buying guide. I will probably do one every year down the road, updating you on rarity, what's available, what has actually arrived, and what you should be seeking out. But for 2021, that's going to be my stance. And I'm going to go spend Thanksgiving with the family, because that's why we're down here, after all. All right, we'll see you.